Okay, so we're doing Moon and Saturn tonight, and this is our first real entree into Saturn, honoring that great deity, and this is the first time in this series that we've done Saturn. We've done every other planet, and we're also ripe for a personal aspect, as what could be more personal than the Moon-Saturn aspect, which in some ways represents, in the classical planets, you basically are at the beginning and end, with the Moon and Saturn. It's the alpha and the omega point. It's such a fundamental polarity or dialectic between, on the one hand, the Moon ruling, the infancy, the home, the maternal, the early childhood, the most interior or emotionally close at hand dimensions of one's being, with that which is the very definition of the boundary, Saturn, the external, internal boundary, or the boundary of death, from birth to death. Moon, the birth out of the mother, the very first relationship. Saturn as the end of life, aging, death, etc. So these are really fundamental. To bring these two together is these are two huge archetypal principles that, in some sense, have an intrinsic polarity that is at the heart of human existence. I mean, in some ways you can see the drama of Genesis, which is at the heart of our, well, in a way, of the human condition, but it's certainly at the heart of all the Abrahamic traditions and the mythos of Western civilization as well. You have a drama between Yahweh in his Saturnian aspect and Eve, the very embodiment of life, of nature, of the female body, and suddenly Eve is to suffer in childbirth. They are expelled from the garden, from the womb, from the unitary connection to uncomplicated connection to their own bodies, to life. They have to work, which is Saturn. They have to earn their bread by the sweat of one's brow. They have to. They experience guilt. Things that were effortless and unworried are now things that have to be worried about or feel guilty about, and suffering, disease. The problematic realm of Saturn, and in fact Saturn at one level representing the very archetype of problem, of the problematic, which is essential to every narrative, as the great literary theorists emphasize. Every narrative, if it doesn't have problem, along with the actor or agent, and the unfolding of the relationship to that problem, you don't have any drama. You don't have a narrative. You don't have anything that pulls us into it. But you can just see how much this archetypal polarity is at the mythic level, so governing of our religious traditions, our civilization, but it's speaking to something profound of the human condition. We all are born of the womb, the moon. We are all at our very core children, dependent, vulnerable, wishing to belong in to be at home, and we are confronted with a world where we have to face isolation, responsibility, burden, work, problems, disease, aging, depression, sorrow, loss, and finally death, all with inevitability. All of these are Saturn. Those are the two fundamentals of the Moon and Saturn that are at the heart of the human condition. Now, what I'm about to unfold, we always have to keep in mind you have hard aspects and soft aspects. And the soft aspects, like the trine and the sextile of Moon and Saturn, tend to be able to, they basically, you'll note very similar themes, and yet there's a greater capacity for, there's a kind of flow between the two principles involved. There's a greater capacity for navigating the polarity with a kind of comfort level, as it were, with the two. For example, just to give a very concrete example, if the Moon has to do with our desire to, or the focus on the home, the family, and if Saturn is the focus on the pragmatic, on work, on duty, well, a Moon-Saturn in any aspect, but in the case of the trine and sextile, with greater, often kind of spontaneous facility, the Moon-Saturn tends to represent that archetypal complex that is moving towards, in bringing that polarity together. The one classic way is like the very organized, pragmatic mother, for example. The person who knows how to organize their home, who plans out their familial, domestic life in a way that is kind of grounded and common sense, informed by common sense, that has a kind of experience of trial and error that has gone into a kind of wisdom and skill that allows one to basically navigate how to be focused on family, mother, children, the role of being a parent, mother or father, in a way that is pragmatically effective, and or the caring authority figure. There's another, like, where you're being Saturn. You've got a Saturn role as a a governor, or a policewoman, or an instructor, a teacher, a professor, and yet you're doing it in a caring way. The therapist, in a way, is a very classic form of Moon and Saturn together, where you've got simultaneously the emotional relating, the caring, nurturing quality, but it's doing it, as one's work, doing it in a skilled way that is often dealing with the problematic dimensions of emotional, psychological, relational life, and often where there's where you are even having to mobilize Saturnian behavior, like restraint, or holding back the immediate expression of nurture in order to be more nurturing in the long run through effective therapeutic treatment.